Tell us about yourself, where you grew up, and what made you run for Congress. Have you always been into politics?
Good morning, Javier. Yeah, thank you. So my name is Loren Collin. I'm running for Congress right here in California's 34th Congressional District. I grew up in South Orange County in Laguna Hills and Mission Viejo, but Los Angeles has always been my ancestral home. My dad was born at Queen of Angels, which is now the Dream Center, and he grew up in Van Nuys. And so many of my early memories were here in California's 34th District, for some reason in Chinatown. My just memories of like being 5 or 6 years old and my grandmother taking me to Philippe's before a Dodgers game and then going to the Dodger Stadium, which is here in the beautiful 34th District. My other grandmother, who's from Queens, New York, loved Chinese food, and we go to Monkeys. What got me into politics was just my idea that two things. One is I want to be free, and I know that I'm not free until everybody's free, and that I just believe human dignity is so important. And the other is taxes. And I've been angry since I was 16 years old that I've been paying more of my wealth in taxes than the wealthy have. So those things combined, plus I've been a lifelong independent. And it was time. There's never been an independent candidate in the primary in California 34. If that person had stood up before me, they would have had my support, but that person's never stood up. So just the timing of my life was like, this is the time to do it. And I'm running to give independents everywhere an option, to give people who are done with both parties an option. Talk to people in California 34. It's the 12th or 13th most Democratic district in the country. But when you talk to Democrats, by and large, they're done with the Democrats. So for the first time ever, I'm proud to be an option for them.
Yeah. So where do you live now?
I'm in Echo Park. It's, like literally Dodger Stadium is my backyard.
Yeah, I mean, tell for those that are maybe watching, like, what are the different cities or regions or communities? Because a lot of times, I worked in politics for many years. People don't know the number,
Yeah, definitely. Especially like when you're getting signatures, people like, I live there, but you don't. So California 34 is all of unincorporated East Los Angeles, including like City Terrace, El Sereno, Boyle Heights, Lincoln Heights, and then Northeast LA. So Eagle Rock, Highland Park, Cypress, Glassell, Herman, Garvanza. And then it comes down south through Chinatown, my little sliver of Echo Park, and Angelino Heights, Victor Heights, historic Filipino town, and then all of Koreatown, all of MacArthur Park, Westlake, all of Pico Union, and then back across the freeway to the historic core, downtown, north of 7th Street, Little Tokyo, and Arts District.
It's good that you know all the little corners of it. Well, since you mentioned it early on, I live in East LA, well, technically City Terrace, but it's East LA. I love being unincorporated. I lived briefly in Hawthorne. I lost a house in the market crash. And one of the things I liked about Hawthorne is like all the services were back then super cheap, right? Like I literally I think we had to pay, the waste was like $13, like the water was like $22, that kind of thing. I don't want a city of East LA. And I know Wendy Carrillo, Jimmy Gomez, other people have been pushing it. What are your takes on that?
It's one of those things on the ground, you hear both. I think people in East LA want, if not cityhood, at least more say in their politics, which I understand. And that's part of why I'm running, is because we're just not well represented. A lot of what has happened is East LA has been stripped of all of the economic tools that would probably make it viable. And I know as Solis is headed out, one of the things that East LA and City Terrace in that area has been looking at is, if there's not complete cityhood, if there's some other form of representation that allows them to have more say in what goes on in their neighborhoods. And I think that's an interesting point. Again, there's no like state law that allows that at the moment. There's no county law that allows that at the moment. But I think what it points to, and it happens here, just across the border in the city of Los Angeles, where we have, 15 districts covering nearly 4 million people. It's 180,000 people per district. And it happens in Congress, where we have 760,000 people per representative. People don't feel represented. They don't feel connected to their government. And part of why I'm running as an independent, it's not just to break the two-party system, but it is to get people connected to their government again. It's great that the county is going up to 9 supervisors, but maybe it should have been more. The city has on the table, is going up to 21 or 25 council people. I don't think it's going to pass the city council to go to the ballot, but I think it should go to the ballot eventually and should be 45 right? You want Latino representation in Los Angeles. If you just had 45 districts, easily over half of them would be majority Latino. And I think the same thing happens in Congress, where since 1929, Congress just decided, oh, we're going to cap it at 435 desks, so that somebody can fit in the House side of the Capitol. We need, at that point, they had 250,000 reps per person. We need to go to 1,491 reps to have the same thing. So I want to maximize our democracy at every level of government. And I fully support what the people of East LA are doing in the sense of looking for something novel, if not cityhood, to make sure that they're represented. And I would help, create the funds to make sure that whatever is decided on that they can be successful that way.
Well, you mentioned the number. I just want to mention to you that 1491 is my favorite year.
Oh, great.
Because the next year went really bad. But
I got that.
My take on it is just to, if Hilda Solis was a better supervisor, we wouldn't need to be a city, right? You fix the sidewalks, do your job. I just think that the devil comes with the government, so to speak, because it's controlled by special interests. So I believe they want to make cityhood East LA because they want to gentrify. And they want to code enforce and do all the bullshit they do everywhere else. I have never met anyone who is like, oh, I wish we were a city. It's always an insider who's moved. There's nobody that's volunteering at any of these events. Everybody there is paid. They're all mobilized by a nonprofit that wants access to a podcast. That's just my take on it. We used to call those paid lobbyists, or audience. I have a very good source that said that almost all of the gubernatorial candidates were paying firms to turn people out to their events. Up until recently. What do you want to accomplish, and what's sort of your platform?
The base of this platform is something I said at the introduction, which is dignity for all. We actually have to change our culture before we change our politics. Right now, white Christian nationalism is on the rise, and it's been part of this country since its founding. But from the post-war era through civil rights, it sort of shrunk and was hiding. But they've had 100-year, if not arguably 160-year plan since the end of the Civil War to put everybody who's not white, Christian, and male back in their place. And right now they're ascendant. And what we don't have in government, which is really disappointing, is people just calling it out. And I'm here to call it out. White Christian nationalism is a form of evil. It is a form of terror. They want all of us to bend the knee to them. And we have to stand up and say no. And we have to have people in power to say no. So I want to do that. But it also starts with that culture change, which is we all have to recognize that we are all human beings, and that as human beings, Javier, you know what's best for you and how to lead your life, but you don't know what's best for the next person, and they don't know what's best for you. We have to get to the mind your own business FU version of what it means to actually be an American and to have liberty and freedom. And that is the opposite of white Christian nationalism. It's also the opposite of the paternalism of the Democratic Party. We each know what's best, but we'll only be able to live our own best lives when we have dignity for all. So that's the cultural change. As far as like the platform itself, it's time to tax the wealthy their fair share. Billionaire wealth hoarding is destroying this country. They've used the tax code to steal trillions from us. We can use the tax code to stop them from stealing by taxing their inheritance, capital gains, and loans against stock the same way our wages are taxed. Like I said, that's what really got me into politics to begin with. And I'm not saying our taxes are going down. I don't make fake promises. I just want the wealthy to pay the same percentage of their wealth that you and I do, that we pay in our wages. We need healthcare for all. We can do Medicare for all, which of course is what all the Democrats are running on. Jimmy Gomez has been a co-sponsor of it for 9 years, but it's never gone anywhere, and it never will go anywhere because they really get all of their money from United Health and from Aetna, right? Like it's all lip service. I'm not going to Congress for lip service. We need to copy the best. And in Germany and Japan, they are the best. Everybody pays 8% of their wages. The boss pays 8% of their wages. Everybody's covered cradle to grave, healthcare, mental health care, long-term care. Nobody goes bankrupt. Nobody dies waiting for coverage. Nobody goes in the streets getting their brains fried because they can't get the help they need. They spend 1/3 less per person for the best results in the world. We deserve the best too. So let's just copy them. But we're, Americans, it has to be about us. We can call it AmeriCare. And additionally, it's time to abolish ICE. They're destroying our neighborhoods. They're destroying this country. The anti-immigrant fervor is just nasty. It's part of why I've been an independent for 30 years. And it's not just a slogan, but I actually want to create a new naturalization agency to hire 10,000 administrative judges so that in 2 years, all 12 million undocumented Americans have legal residency and ICE is gone. And we are rebuilding this country with the people who actually do make it great.
What do you think about the work that's being done out of not just not to pick on Jimmy, the leadership? Because I've been around inside circles, and I know, like you alluded to it, like they get together, like, hey, you do a housing bill, I'll do a healthcare bill, you do a labor bill, but like we're gonna kill them all in committee, but like we're gonna be able to have the press conference and have the banners up. But like, what is the agenda of party leadership in DC?
Fundraising.
That's good.
That's why, right? It is. I mean, the Democratic Party has fundraised off of immigration for 30 years. They fundraised off of legalizing abortion for 30 years. They
100
fundraised
years.
off 100 years, yep, for LGBTQ rights for a half a century. They never codified any of those. They ran on universal health care. They backed out, right? It was a Democrat that stopped universal health care back in the day. Democrat Joe Lieberman. It was 2 Democrats under Biden that stopped being able to tax the wealthy and close just one loophole for taxes on the wealthy, and that was Sinema and Manchin, right? It's amazing that there's always enough Democrats to make sure that Democratic policies don't pass, and there's always enough Democrats to make sure that Republican policies pass, and it's got to stop. Jimmy Gomez sits on the Ways and Means Committee, not because he's a good legislator or he's good at taxes. He's actually horrible. I mean, his last big idea was to give first-time homeowners like $25,000. No one in California 34 would even qualify for the $25,000 first-time home ownership. It would have affected nobody in his district, but he was running around bragging about it. Jimmy Gomez has his seat on Ways and Means because he's one of the best fundraisers for the Democratic Party. And that's one of my critiques against all of the Democrats who are running in this race is they don't actually know what it means if they win. They don't understand that to win as a Democrat and to get an assignment means to fundraise over half of your time in DC. That is your full-time job. Your part-time job is legislating. And that's why we have to break the 2-party system, because they don't want to give the people what they want. They want to give their donors what they want. And Javier, you and I and the people in California 34, we're not their donors.
Well, it's interesting you say that, because I know that that's also another thing. I always tell people, if you really want to know who somebody is, look at the fundraising for the PACs that they run, not even their own committee, because they're not stupid enough to put Chevron checks. Only Becerra is, because he was trying to signal. But like, if you look at like the caucuses in Sacramento and the PACs that people are involved, I mean, Newsom raised like $9 billion to like spread some health care for all, I don't know, some bullshit, and he used it to promote and pay for the production of his podcast. And all the money during COVID, he took millions of dollars from Kaiser. Guess who got the contract to deliver the vaccine? A lot of times when, the average, by the way, if you could explain briefly in your answer what Ways and Means are, because people probably don't know what that means, but what would you do different to get people, to get issues moved? Because one of the things that the Democrats claim is they're log jammed, they're blocked, they're gerrymandered out of power. But Bernie Sanders has a strategy I'm going to get on TV. What would be your tactic, a winning vote?
Ways and Means Committee, for those that don't know, is the committee in the House of Representatives that basically is the tax committee.
Right.
They decide the tax code first, and then it goes to the rest of the House. As far as what I would do, so beyond being the only independent in this race, I've actually helped create the Independent Candidate Network. And the Independent Candidate Network at the moment is 20 other independents from across the country, from across the political spectrum, representing rural, suburban, and urban areas. And what we all have and agree on is that we need to stop the 2-party system in its tracks where it is most pernicious in the House of Representatives by denying both Democrats and Republicans a majority. So that's the goal, is once we deny both Democrats and Republicans a majority in the House of Representatives, then the people actually have the power, if not for the first time ever, right? And we'd restore the House to regular order, meaning that instead of right now, since 1994, when Newt Gingrich became Speaker, it's been the dictatorship of the Speaker. Whatever the Speaker wants is how the House runs. It doesn't function as a deliberative body, and it hasn't in 30 plus years. So that's sort of the dream, right? But what if I go and I'm the only independent, where there's not enough independents to still stop in 2026 both parties from a majority, which we'll keep working on. But it's what you said. I will use the bully pulpit, which Jimmy Gomez hides. I mean, when right after ICE came into LA, and it was like 2 or 3 weeks later, and there was a press conference in downtown, right around the corner from the MDC, And all of the California or the LA delegation of representatives was there, and the city reps were there, and the county reps were there, and state reps, and Newsom was speaking. Jimmy Gomez in his own district was in the third row back hiding. How embarrassed I was for all of us in California 34. Also, for those that don't know, Jimmy Gomez voted for ICE funding and voted for DHS funding, right? He created the problem, and now he's running around the district bragging how he's going to fix the problem that he created.
He's saying he just did a video. He's suing Trump for access to the sites, which is interesting because I know he's like third generation, but I go back to Mexico all the time, and I don't know what to do with it. It's really powerful stuff. I've interviewed 3 people who spent at least 30 days in the ICE hieleras, and my thinking is to do an op-ed comparing it to Guantanamo Bay, but like, you can find these people to tell you what's inside. You know what I mean? Like, if you can't get an inspection, say, hey, and it's just this kid that I grew up with in Mexico. I used to, frankly, send him to go on beer runs for me as a little kid. And I paid him to pick me up at the airport. Dude's totally traumatized. 30 days, no windows, didn't speak to anyone, light 24 hours a day. No blankets, toilet in the middle. They have to shit in front of everyone. 3 frozen hamburgers a day and 1 orange. Only was able to speak to the Mexican consulate. Luckily, he knew his wife's phone number by memory. So he was able to. They're fainting. It's like the boxing. They're like fainting. They're going to throw a punch. So you consider yourself more of a fighter. So if you're more of a fighter, what's your stance on what I think is the growing obviously U.S. military aggression, not just in the Middle East, but in Latin America, pardoning president convicted of drug trafficking, who's now having apparently secret calls with Mossad and the CIA about getting involved in the elections in Mexico and Bolivia. We used to at least hear Maxine Waters come out yelling and screaming, right? We don't even hear that anymore. She's older. I think she had a pretty decent career. What's your take on Trump and his foreign policies and what the Congress should be doing?
Trump and his foreign policies is, again, basically an extension of all of American foreign policy, Democratic and Republican, for the last 50 years, if not 100 years, which is creating this American empire. And I think the American empire has reached its apex, and it is no longer helpful to the American people. It's time to end the American empire. It's time. So in December, Jimmy, along with enough Democrats, voted for the $1 trillion Defense Authorization Act. $1 trillion. That doesn't help anybody in this district. That doesn't help anybody in City Terrace or in Boyle Heights or in Angelino Heights. Like, it just doesn't. It doesn't help us as Americans. We need to cut the defense budget from $1 trillion to $500 billion or less. We need to invest in America. As far as like the overall global hegemony of the United States, and when in regards to the Middle East, and Israel in particular, and what this foolishness in Iran, we should only have one official policy when it comes to ethno-religious states. And that is the exact number of ethno-religious states around the globe should be 0. It doesn't matter the last 5,000 years of history or the last 10,000 years of history, or even what happened yesterday. Israel should not exist as an ethno-religious state. It should be a secular state where all 7 million Israeli Jews and all 7 million Palestinian Arabs and Israeli Arabs, there's a total of about 7 million, live in peace of their own making. And they don't have to be religious. They can be atheists. They can be Buddhists. They can be even crazy things like Unitarians, right? But the point is, the only peace that's ever going to happen is in Israel is when it is no longer a Jewish state. And I'm not picking on just Israel. We should have no backing for Saudi Arabia. They're also an ethno-religious state and a monarchy. America, to be the beacon on the hill, to be what you believe the ideals of this country are to end empire and to make sure that everybody has the self-determination to eventually, if they so choose, in their borders, to have the liberty and freedom of a secular government where everybody can live free. But we have to do it here first, right? We're about to celebrate 250 years, but we know that since the first Europeans showed up here, in 400 years, like you said, even earlier, 1491, the difference from 1491 to 1492.
Tremendous.
Yeah, it's like, so let's get to the place where in our country first. Let's focus here on making sure that we're the best. And that means pulling our troops from across the globe, bringing them back home, defending our borders. Our borders absolutely should be defended. When I'm saying cut the military budget in half, that still means putting our current soldiers and our vets first and making sure they're well taken care of. But this empire, I think you see over my shoulder, yeah, there it is, The Wealth of Nations. The last couple of pages is Adam Smith telling the English, hey, you guys, the empire is costing us more money than we're making. If not in India and America, certainly in the Americas, let it go. We're at that point where we're holding on to this idea instead of, and myth, which is what we're really good in America, instead of the reality. And the reality is, and again, I'm here to fight and say it. No one else is saying it, not even in this race. It's time to end the American empire. It's time to make sure that our ideals are clear and simple, and that we only fight for secular democracy, and we end all ethno-religious states, and we invest in America. It's not just take that 500 billion savings and watch it go away, although in many ways it is, because we have to bring our deficit under control. We're literally mortgaging our future and our children's future. But whatever we do save needs to be invested back here in America in making sure that we have minimum livable wages, making sure that we have education for all, making sure that we have healthcare for all. Like you said, we don't have working sidewalks in East LA, not just because of the ineptness, perhaps, of the supervisor, but also in California, we send every year $267 billion per year to the federal government that does not come back to California. It subsidizes Mississippi, that just cut its income tax. It subsidizes Alabama and Iowa and all these places. We in California are subsidizing the rest of the country. 37 states are taker states. 13 states led by California are the giver states. I will only vote yes on a budget that makes sure that every dollar California sends to the federal government, we get back, so we can invest in our streets, so we can invest in lights, so we can fix our homelessness problem, so we can build the housing that we need, and at least the infrastructure to make it happen, versus Jimmy Gomez and all the Democrats, and again, the people running in this race, and the whatever existing 9 Republicans in the state, the 52 representatives from California think nationally, right?
Yeah.
They're the national representatives. They're working for the federal government. They're not working for California. They're not working for their district. They're working for the federal government and their party, and ultimately their donors. And again, the donors are the same for both parties. So we have to break that. And it's up to the courage of the people. I'm just an option. Javier, I'm not the answer. I'm not the solution. I'm an option for when people finally see the truth and they want real systemic change. But they have to have the courage to make that choice for themselves.
Well, it sounds great, man. Well, look, I was really pleased to speak with you a couple of times, and a breath of fresh air, because I think that Jimmy's had a tough time winning re-election. I don't think he's been challenged by serious campaigns. So if you want to make your final pitch, and good luck to you.
I appreciate it. This is going to go out, and we're going to have about 30 hours before the election. I think the hard part right now, Javier, is just how few people have voted. Less than 10% of the city of LA, we can extend that and imagine that's true for East Los Angeles as well, has turned in their ballots. And that's just of eligible voters, of registered voters. We won't even get into the eligible voters, because then the percentage is far less. Most people who have voted are older, and most people who have voted are probably in the West Side or the wealthier parts of the Valley. California 34 doesn't come out to vote. And I understand it, because you have your lives to live, or you don't feel it makes a difference. I want to let you know it does make a difference. And if you've only ever voted against something, I'm voting for Jimmy, or I'm voting for the Democrats because I can't stand the Republicans, I want you to know, for the first time ever, I want to be the person that gives you someone to vote for and a reason to believe that you actually have the power. I'm not going for my power. I'm going for all of our power to be, like you said, Javier, the fighter and the voice for California 34, to argue why our values and our progressivism isn't just right here in California 34. We know that, but it's right everywhere. And I would encourage everyone who still has their ballot between now and 8 p.m. on Tuesday, June 2nd, to go out and vote. And I hope when it comes to the section for House of Representatives, they fill in the bubble next to Loren Collin for Congress, and that they send the first ever no party preference independent progressive into the general election to take on Jimmy Gomez and make real change.
That's a good message, man. I appreciate your time. And I also want to message to people, there's a lot more to improving this world than circling a bubble every couple of years. But for now, let's do that on Tuesday. All right, man. Well, have a good one, man. Appreciate your time.
Thanks, Javier. Have a good
All right,
one.
man.